she was always the boss, and she always had a really clear vision of what she wanted. And it's like, I think she's also manifested so much because she could see it first. She could see it and she could hear it.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Madonna Songbook, the podcast about Madonna's music, her songwriting, and producing talent. My name is Giulio Mazzoleni. I am a longtime Madonna fan, I am a music manager from Italy, and you may have heard about Madonna Songbook, the book that I wrote about Madonna as a songwriter and producer. It covers all over 500 songs, released and unreleased, at least those that we know of so far, because new songs are coming, and that is so exciting. Anyway, there is a beautiful community of Madonna fans that has built around my book, this podcast, and the Instagram account. Yes, Madonna's music makes the people come together. And for those who want to get hold of a copy of the book, check the link in the description of this podcast or the link in bio on my Instagram account. So here we are, like on the book, once again, talking of Madonna's music and wanting to make some justice of her underrated talent at creating a fantastic music world. We will do it with some guests. This is a video podcast for those of you who access it on YouTube and Spotify. Otherwise, you can listen on Apple and Podbean and Amazon, etc. Thank you for the comments that you leave on those platforms. I am absolutely in love with the dialogue with each of you. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings. It is great. It's a great thing to chat about Madonna's music. So let's keep in touch. Now let's start today's episode. Let's take a journey into Madonna's songbook. Leave the chatter behind. There is a very special guest today, so don't wake me up. Not today, or this dream will fade away. Let the music take control. Okay, there are few names that need no introduction to any of Madonna's fans around the world. This is one of those. I'm honored and so happy to have with us Donna De Lory.
It's great to be here. Thank you for saying my name right.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast. You were so generous to give me a very long and fantastic interview for my book, which I'm really grateful for. And this whole idea of the podcast came to me for the first season. Even in the second season, I'm trying to share with the fans all the beautiful things that I've learned about the people who work with Madonna and the songs that she has done. And regarding, I don't have to tell you, because I see from your interviews and the podcasts that you do and so forth that you and Nikki are very aware of this. So it might sound repetitive, but you two are very much loved and cherished in the Madonna fan community. And I see but also I want to add that personally, you were my favorite of the three singers of the Who's That Girl tour when I was 14. I don't know.
That's
I felt
so
a connection
sweet
with you. And I love Nikki very much as well. But, there was something, I remember that, I think it was 1991 when this CD came out, Three Men, Little Lady.
Yeah,
Just because it featured the song from Donna De Lory, I ran to buy the CD, which is a boring release, to be honest, but I love that song.
So you have the CD, because I wanted to put that online. Everyone keeps... a lot of people say, like, why isn't that up for streaming? And I'm like, I'm over it now. I'm like, I'm putting the stuff up myself for streaming. You know what I mean? So I got to get a digital file from you.
I'll send it to you. It's always fun. I put it in my stereo and I enjoyed it. So it's great and it's beautiful and it's fantastic to be talking to you. Of course, like I said, you don't need introduction, but I just wanted to recap, and for the sake of this conversation, share with everyone that you come from a very musical family. You're the daughter of Al De Lory, a producer, a musician, an arranger, a very prolific musician, but also your grandfather. I think I read somewhere that he played in orchestras for big Hollywood movies.
Yeah, he basically, as a teenager, I guess he was in Portland. His whole family, his father was French, and the father was very insistent that they all master an instrument. So they had a quartet, a string quartet. They used to play at the hotels in Portland, Oregon. So my grandfather grew up, like, whether he liked it or not, he was a musician. And then he wanted to sing. He sang and danced. So when he was a teenager, he snuck out the window and joined the vaudeville show that was touring. Ended up being with the Warner Brothers Orchestra and played on all those films like Gone with the Wind and Casablanca. And for like 30 years, he was under contract. So he was in that environment. And then, I always heard stories that Olivia de Havilland from Gone with the Wind, like, had a big crush on my grandfather. And I mean, my grandfather played tennis with all these people too. So he was in that whole Hollywood scene, that very glamorous time. So he was in that business and raised his son, my father, to be a musician. And same thing. My dad was like, showed talent at a very young age. He was like a child prodigy, was up with the big bands on like Hollywood Boulevard at the big, like, Pantages, Egyptian Theater, like all the Hollywood theaters that had the big bands. My dad would get up and play as a teenager. So he was going to go into music, and it was just inevitable. And hearing those stories from a young age, plus my dad being in the business and everything, I was like, I want to be that. I want to be on stage. I want to have.
And your mother was a singer too?
Yeah, she sang and she danced, and she was a dance teacher with Arthur Murray's, which was like the big dance school at that time. My mom just wasn't really cut out for the business, I think. And at that time in the 50s, really hard for women.
Yeah.
What they had to go through, to.
So no wonder you became an artist yourself, and even started at an
Yeah.
early age. You were a child singing in commercials, right? And you
Oh my
started very,
gosh.
very early.
We did so much stuff. I recently found a resume of mine from when I was like 15 or 16, when I moved to Nashville, and I was like giving out my resumes trying to get work there. And on there were some credits that I didn't even remember I did. One of them was a song on a John Denver album.
Wow.
Yeah. Super fun. Did a lot of work. Yeah.
And here I really, you are quite generous, and I've been giving a lot of interviews through the years, so I don't want to bore you nor the
Yeah.
audience with, the old stories, but you were very young when you sang the Open Your Heart demo, which convinced Freddie Demand to present the song to Madonna. She recorded it. Pat Leonard kept you in mind, called you for the Who's That Girl tour, and you started working with her. You are probably the longest standing collaborator in all of her career, 20 years singing with Madonna. Now, because of the nature of my book and the podcast, I like to focus on the songs. Here today, I would like to talk about Madonna as a songwriter and producer, as a female voice. We will talk about other female voices, and we'll go back to your music, especially your current music and the oldest songs as well. I would like to go through a few songs. I really don't want to go through the whole resume. Like you said, it's very big, and the Madonna resume within your own resume is pretty thick. And congratulations, because she really obviously trusted you and liked you for a long time. She doesn't even use backup singers anymore. So
I know it's too bad. It's too
Yeah.
bad, but it's all good. I respect her, and her music's great. And it's all about the creative process,
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I'm curious about that, because you got to witness a lot of things, and I would like to discuss 5-6 songs or a couple of experiences and see where our chat goes to, but focus on your vision. But first, I would like to ask you a question that is before you became a collaborator, worked with Madonna. What was your perception at the beginning? How did you discover her? How did you feel about her music in the very beginning?
Well, the very beginning of how I heard her music, I mean, I must have heard, those early singles on the radio, but I didn't know who she was or anything. I might have just heard it, and I didn't really know what the face to the music and everything. But right away, I loved the beat. I loved the dance music, so of course I was going to love that kind of music. I was living with a bunch of girls in a house in North Hollywood. And one day, one of them came in and she was like, oh my gosh, I think she brought the album. She's like, Donna, I heard this on the radio and it sounded just like you. I thought it was you. And this was just them hearing me like sing around the house, probably. And they knew I wanted to be a singer, because like from when I was really young, I was trying to like, knock on doors in Hollywood and sleep on studio couches and everything. So they were like, oh my God, we thought this was you. You have to check this out. So I remember, I think we had a turntable and we put the record on. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, it does sound like me, but I obviously know that we have two different people and two different voices. So I would right
Right.
away, I remember singing along with her music and I was like, wow, she was at my range exactly. I could sing along really well. At that point, I wasn't at all like, oh, I should sing with her. And then, I remember being at the gym one day and Borderline coming on and singing along with it. And, it was just the music that was perfectly in my range. And it was fun to sing along with her music at that point for me.
That's crazy because I had like many other people, the opposite experience, hearing some of your recordings and thinking, is this Madonna? This happened with
Yeah.
Bring Me Your Love by Nick Cayman, one of his singles after the big hits. I remember this song being on the radio and being stuck looking at the radio. My mother going like, why are you so focused on that? And I would say, it's Madonna, but it isn't. I was trying to figure out,
Oh,
and
that's
then I
really
bought the record
interesting.
to find out the credits.
You know what? You got to remind me. I got to remind me of some of my credits because I don't even remember that.
I will do
Uh,
your Wikipedia page next.
No, because I collect, like as artists that are accompanying artists like that, we collect it's a special royalty that we get from the world, but you have to
Yes,
like tell
yes,
them everything you've sung on.
that's
So a
true.
lot of
You should.
times they keep telling me like, are there more you don't remember? Like if there are more, tell us because they go and um it's called neighboring rights. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are performers on all that music and we could talk about that later, but I realize, we are, even though we're backup vocalists, we are artists. We are, expressing ourselves and singing on those records. Our likeness, our sound and everything is captured in that body of work. So I always appreciate that kind of recognition. And
Absolutely.
now even I was brainstorming about like doing a show where I do a lot of the songs that I sang on the records. You know what I mean?
Why
Like
not?
all those Belinda hits
Belinda
and
Carlisle, yeah.
Selena and
Selena.
whoever it was, Milan Varma or whoever. Um, yeah, it would be super fun. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but it would be really fun
That
to
would be fun, yeah, to hear your take on the whole
songs
songs.
and
Yes.
stories kind of a thing. Yeah.
Now, one of the first few experiences that you had with Madonna in the recording studio was
Hmm.
with the Like a Prayer album, and you did some of the songs. Now, a lot of people think you and Nikki did Express Yourself, but on the record it was someone else.
Hmm.
You did Cherish, you did Dear Jessie. Did you do Supernatural?
I honestly do not remember, and I have to ask Nikki because a lot of
Okay.
people have been asking me that. And I didn't even remember doing what's the one from Bedtime Stories? Survival?
Survival.
I didn't even remember that. And I have heard that and I love it. Survival, like Nikki and I were always dying to do a belting part. Always. Like every song, probably except I Remember, that we sing on of hers, and also the stuff when we were doing like the Carpenters kind of vocals, we wanted to do like it's not so much a standout, but just like we love belting and the
Hmm.
sound that Nikki and I have when we do sing out like that. It's so fun. And so it would depend on Madonna, of course, but also the producer she was working with, if they wanted that,
Right.
or they'd let us like have the 5-10 minutes to try it. Because sometimes it's like, we got to get out of here. Time is money. We don't have time for your ideas. And other times it was like, yeah, bring your ideas. Let's try them, you
Beautiful.
know?
So let's talk
Yeah.
about Survival because it's very contemporary in the discussion in the Madonna fandom because Madonna recently released an EP that included some outtakes and demos from the Bedtime Stories album.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to hear Survival as a demo without you in a TLC style. And then
Yeah.
Madonna bringing that song she had done with Dallas Austin to Nelly Hooper, turning it into more pop, trip hop R&B, and
Mm-hmm.
calling you girls to sing. It's really beautiful to hear how this song elevates with your contribution. Now, listening back to it, what are your memories of that recording session?
I remember all the producers or whoever was working, there was always a team of people. They were like hanging out, hanging around. We went in there. And Nikki and I just worked like really efficiently. I mean, it was like always effortless working on her music because I knew, of course, how to blend with her voice right away. So a lot of times it was really getting the balance between Nikki and I. So
Mm.
obviously we sang at the same time, but maybe they might have given us each a mic so they could adjust the levels of us. I think I'm not sure on that one, but sometimes it would be like Donna here, Nikki back there, because Nikki's like 10 times louder than me.
She's powerful.
Yeah, and also like we just had to get the blend. But then we do a thing called multi-tracking. So it'd be like, let's
Hmm.
double it, let's triple it, let's do the harmony, let's do
Mm.
this that. Get back from the mic and do it that way. That's just like technique of singers in the studio. So we do a lot, and it was just so exciting going back into after we finished on each song, we'd go back into the control room with everyone and we'd listen back to it. And I have to say, like, I was always really proud of the work I did, especially with her, because it's such a good fit.
Mm.
Going back in there and being like, yeah, you know,
And you were fresh from the Girly Show, which was a collaboration that really, gave you such a platform.
yeah, it was. And we had the best time during that. We knew, at that point, we knew we were all solo art. Nikki was a solo artist. We were doing our own thing. Um, yeah, our voices were heard a little more than when we first started working with her. That was really
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I mean, it was just always such a great experience. And like I said, once again, like anytime Nikki and I could step out and do our own part that was away from like Madonna's stacked vocal group,
Hmm.
we loved that. Like doing answers or belting parts, and usually they would like mix it up at the very end of the song, like nothing really matters. That really matters. You know what I mean? It's like it comes in at the end and it's like just like pushes it over the top.
Right, it's a crescendo because it starts with you guys only doing some accents, and then in the first chorus, the second, and then you kick in and it becomes really super, super powerful. The song does have a crescendo itself.
Oh yeah, that
And
the arrangements, and especially like I remember working with Pat Leonard. He was so conscious of that. Like if we were adding harmonies, it's like it wouldn't come till later. And I kind of was trained in that. I feel like I have that technique of with my songs really building them vocally. A lot of those Madonna records, I honestly would like hear a part right away when I heard the song,
mhm.
and I'd have to wait until the perfect time to bring it up. Like that song, I remember. I
Yeah.
remember. I remember I was thinking of that part. I heard it right away. And I waited, I'm like, how about this? And I was just appreciative that Madonna was really open to our ideas.
That was a true collaboration and a very touching song, yeah, with,
Yeah.
with that melody and growing. Whereas with Nothing Really Matters, it had a lot of power. I remember
Mm.
seeing the Grammy performance that you guys did opening the show. It must have been a very tense moment, but the way you were singing, even better, live with intention in those crazy Japanese costumes and those platform shoes,
No, that.
giving out the vibe of the message. Nothing really matters. Love is all we need. It's
Oh my
so
gosh.
powerful.
It was powerful, and where she had gotten to in her life to be really like, I mean, obviously she wrote that lyric, but
Hmm.
really have a different perspective on life now. And I appreciated that because we were all growing up and evolving together, and that was those are some powerful words to sing. I remember going in to sing on that song, and it was just like so inspirational, and I hadn't heard the whole album, but
Hmm.
that was like a turning point for her. And it was beautiful. I mean, she is always evolving, but she had more consciousness, with her music and her lyrics and everything. So,
It happened to me too as a listener to be
mm,
evolving in my life and witnessing moments of her evolution herself. Like when she started off, she was an entertainer performer.
yeah.
She entertainment performer. She did say that I want to give people entertainment and out
Hmm.
of the sadness of life, like songs like Holiday. And then by True Blue, she started making songs like Live to Tell. And then even further, like pushing into intimacy and family with Like a Prayer, and then with Erotica, investigating on sexual issues and female identity and so forth. And Ray of Light came as another introspectory moment of my own life. So I felt a connection, and I'm sure you had that too, when you had been practicing yoga way before her, and you had been investigating spirituality before her. So I'm sure you connected with that when she brought it up. What I'm interested to know is, I take it that you had never witnessed her writing a song, because you were always called at a later stage of production.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So as a producer, you witnessed her working, and all the colleagues, all the producers that I've interviewed for this book or caught quotes from for my book, all of them men, have been sometimes praised as being the right man for Madonna at the right moment, or she had picked the right partner in the right moment and for the fresher sound. And all of them said instead that she was the real producer, that she was producing them, that she was taking their talent into her own product, but having the vision to lead the project. How was in your experience seeing her at the board of producing vocals or sound for a record?
Yeah, I mean, that was my experience of her and how she influenced me as well. She was always the boss. I mean, any time we were in the studio, on stage, we were, whatever we were doing, working on choreography or something, she was always the boss, and she always had a really clear vision of what she wanted. And it's like, I think she's also manifested so much because she could see it first. She could see it and she could hear it. So she kind of heard it before it was. And she was so good, I think, at expressing what she was looking for and getting it out of people. And it was easy to work with her because she knew what she wanted. And that's a lot easier than somebody, I've been in the studio with producers, honestly, they didn't know what they wanted at all.
Can you try a bit more of that, less of that, or maybe do it again? Yeah,
Oh my God, days sitting in a studio, day after day after day. Come on in this group, let's try a different group. And because we're making pop music, and you have to you have to have hits, and you have to have that sound. And yeah, it could be frustrating working with someone who doesn't know what they want. And it takes so much time. I mean, you're just like a horse as a singer. You can only sing so much. And some sessions were so hard and other sessions were so easy. And like her sessions were to me, the easiest.
That's beautiful. I think that's the best compliment you can pay a producer.
Yeah.
And also going back to the fact of putting layers of vocals and ideas. I remember you when we talked in our interview for the book, that telling me how affectionate you are to the song Cherish, and remember going into the booth with her as well, singing with Marilyn Martin, Nikki, yourself, Madonna, all those beautiful layers, again, coming towards the end of the song. How was that process? Was that, did you feel as a group, the four of you, how did she behave? What did you bring in to the conversation?
It was just super fun. It was just that openness of, let's try different configurations and different positions around the mic. And, and I mean, I always love singing with her. I mean, what can you say? So if she's looking for a certain sound, it's like, well, jump in the group here. Let's all sing together. I mean, we all know that sound vibration is, singing is sound vibration. So, and it's also, it's bonding. I mean, all kinds of things get released, chemicals from our brains when we're singing together, electromagnetic fields, we're standing next to each other. There's nothing like singing together and being in a group. And it's a spiritual experience. That song is a very happy, joyful, innocent. I love that track. When that comes on, my boy, I will always cherish you. And it's super fun to I can hear sometimes my voice popping out, or Nikki's voice. And I love that on the records when I listen to them. I'm like, oh. There was still
my favorite is on the Blonde Ambition version. On the Yokohama recording, you definitely come up at one point when it says, cherish is the word I used to remind me of your love. in the mix, you're super high there, and I always enjoy that.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, I love, you know what I really love is looking at on Instagram, like the videos that people are posting from the audience.
Yeah.
And I get to hear the sound that was in the house at that
Mm.
concert. And
Hmm.
I'm blown away. I mean, sometimes Nikki and I were so loud. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, whoa. You know, it depends on the mixer and that
Yeah.
night. And you know, they used to like I would always say like if Madonna had it was hoarse or she had a cold or something, I would be like, I can sing louder. You
Hmm.
know, the sound man always had he was always like this with the faders. So he could always adjust them. So if one of us was like winded and what not a lot coming out, and he's like looking at
The result, the
the result,
overall.
he could see how much volume's coming out when he's looking at the board too. He had that power to mix and change the mix, which is super cool. Yeah.
Also, I don't want to be nerdy, but I love listening to the Girly Show and Blonde Ambition. And in Blonde Ambition, when Madonna developed a throat condition that had her
Yeah.
cancel a couple of concerts and stuff, I noticed that compared to the beginning of the tour, in Material Girl, in the chorus, you were doing the upper part, the, how would you say, singing the higher pitch. She was
Hmm.
in the middle, and Nikki was singing the lower. But by the US dates, you had started singing on the same note of Madonna. You had dropped that difference in order to sustain probably her in such a high-pitched song.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful. You would be changing and adjusting, like you said, every night, not only just in the mixing level, but you girls finding out what the perfect thing would be, which is why I love listening to many recordings and making comparisons. But never mind me, I'm crazy.
That's awesome. And I'm sure you're not the only one, you know. I mean, you are
There's
so
plenty of us.
passionate and you're creating great you know, content and everything for everyone to go
Thank you.
to go deeper into this because there's I mean, she's an incredible iconic artist that people don't even know. You know, they don't know the depths of the work that she's done.
Mm.
Just because this crazy time with, you know, TikTok and everything. We're just living in a different time now. But for those who were there and felt the power of that music and the evolution of that artistry,
Yeah.
um, I think like my kids don't get it at all. You know, they're just like, oh, that lady on TikTok or whatever, you know, they don't they don't understand, you know, and I don't even try. You know, I'm like one day you'll look at all this stuff and you'll, you know, and you're grown up and you can have perspective of time and artists and everything. Um, so
But that
yeah.
is beautiful. Yet maybe not your kids, but I am a teacher in music business.
Mhm.
I recently went to Bucharest, Romania. I went to Rome. I was in Bologna yesterday. I'm in Milan and teaching. And we're in a nostalgic generation. A lot of people from our generation love listening to their old music, but also
Mhm.
young people are very curious to music that was before them. And you'd be surprised how many bring up Madonna, especially young female,
Yeah, yeah.
have investigated about her. So I think it's great, and they are curious to know. So even because artists like Rosalia recently, or Dua Lipa, or even Katy Perry,
Yeah, yeah.
they're all paying tribute to Madonna and recognizing that, acknowledging, sorry, that she has been so influential and so important. So that is opening doors for curiosity to lead to that. And but going back to your collaboration with Madonna, it was fantastic when you and Nikki recorded your own cover of Rain, because from that show, that performance stood up so much. And you did say that the idea came from the fact that the fans on YouTube were commenting, were giving such tribute and credit to you girls supporting Madonna on that song and singing as a trio, essentially. How was the experience of doing that without her?
I mean, it was amazing because, you know, Nikki and I are both singers, we're both artists. Um, you know, it wasn't really that experience wasn't like if only Madonna was singing with us. You know, we did that and we had
Hmm.
that. We
Hmm.
wanted to like give a nod to like our nostalgic moment of our own career as well. It was a great song, great arrangement, great memory. So it
Mhm.
started out with our own, we knew the fans like loved it, but we all share that great memory. It was powerful I mean, Nikki and I always in rehearsal were like, why can't we just sit on stools and sing? I mean, we love
And it
dancing and
happened.
performing, but like as the years went on, we'd be like, can we just sit and sing? Because we can. Some people, they have to keep moving and everything because they can't really sing. It's like, let's just sit and look in each other's eyes and sing a great song and work on an arrangement with a great band. So it happened. And
Yeah,
it happened with that song. Um, and just the music, the arrangement, here comes the sun, the whole thing was over the top. So when Nikki and I were like, let's do our own version, but let's like use some of the stuff from the live recording. But we didn't do just my imagination, we just,
publishing issues probably.
of course. And um we we made it our own. We just brought in like a guitar player we knew, acoustic guitar player, and he learned the chords, and we worked on the vocals, and it was effortless. So let's go in the studio and do it.
And then you made this beautiful EP that included Rain. But I have to say, it's a great recording. I know you'll leave you, but All Through the Night, but Cyndi Lauper's All Through the Night, you
I
did
know,
such
that's
an amazing
sweet.
job. I recommend everybody listen to this.
Yeah, we that's a great song for us because the range is great. And once again, us like doing our belting thing and a chorus that's got all those harmonies. Plus the verses, the way we arranged it, it was like in Rain, she does a couple lines, I do a couple lines, that. But in All Through the Night, we each took a whole verse,
Yeah.
so that's super fun doing a duet um, between Nikki and I. I mean, you've seen us, it's like we can cover so much ground with our voices. We're both so versatile.
Yeah.
And
I
then
came to your show in New
I
York and I
know,
was
I know.
speechless, speechless.
When we do Rain, it's really about like the audience singing with us, and I love that. And sometimes it's like, let's do all these songs. We both have our own songs. There's some Madonna songs we do. Honestly, it was a big part of our lives, and I'm always like very joyful and to do those songs because it makes everyone so happy. And it brings me back to like being on stage with her and looking out. You guys were so happy. No matter what was going on in the world, no matter what was going on in your lives, you were like, there was so much joy and celebration.
You were giving it
And
to us.
but it was a two-way street, We were
Oh,
feeding off of
beautiful.
you. Do you know what I mean? You were
Yeah.
such a part of this.
But going back to the Girly Show, I remember seeing that performance, being mesmerized. I was in Paris, so it was the third and fourth and fifth night. I saw the three of them. You had just done London, and this song came up, and it was the latest single, and we all loved it. But it was such a beautiful arrangement, and you sitting down, the band coming closer. It felt like being in a club with Madonna. The first
Yeah.
intimate occasion to ever see Madonna, used to doing big stadiums, and then just my imagination coming up, and I was 19. I knew Motown, but didn't know that much. And I was like, is this a new song? What are they doing? And then
That's
going
so
back into
funny.
that,
Yeah.
such a beautiful moment. I remember being there front row, just like with my eyes wide open. There's one other song I would like to discuss with you. We didn't talk about this in the interview I did for the book, but do you remember the sessions when you did the remixes for Don't Cry for Me Argentina, when Madonna revisited the song in her own vision and made it a dance hit?
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember those guys. One of them, I think I stayed in touch with for a while. They had known us as well. They were so respectful. And um, yeah, they were excited that we were there and singing, and I'll have to go back and listen to that stuff. Like I just don't
Hmm.
listen to this all the time.
Hmm.
But that was super fun. Yeah, I'm like, wow, we really did a lot of stuff with her. Um, I loved all the different directions, and whether it was like hanky panky or we like, once again, Nikki and I are so versatile that we could go to these different places. We were born in a time where we were hearing like um Manhattan Transfer, that group that was like was like that, you know, I don't want it's a certain style, like the Andrews sisters, which were probably
Yeah.
like the 40s, maybe. Um,
Yeah.
we you know, our parents were into that music, maybe, so we had heard it, we were familiar with it, that style. The same thing from being on tour and hearing all that style of music coming out of Miami and the Cuban, Afro-Cuban and everything. It was really exciting to do those different kind of uh, those styles that those producers, co-producers would bring in, those
Mm-hmm.
remixers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super fun. So it's like
Fantastic.
we could go there just like she could, you know?
And speaking of music from the past, I would like to have a little discussion with you on a couple of names, a few names, and throw in and see where it goes. Speaking of the fact that Madonna is, like we said, a generational icon, but there were few, like you said, even for your mother, it was hard back in the days to have a career as a woman in the music industry. It's becoming easier now, but at the time it was hard for gems and diamonds to shine through. I don't know, like Aretha Franklin had her chance, obviously, and took most of it because she was extremely strong. But it
Yeah.
wasn't so common for many others. So sometimes it's hard to find that many. And to me, one influential woman, powerful in music, that really stood up and said, I want to make music as a woman and I have my own identity, was Diana Ross, who probably unconsciously started because she was really young when she was thrown onto a stage, but eventually became a leader.
Coming out of that time in the music business, what was going on, where it was just like women did not have the power. Same with Aretha when she was coming up. And I want to see that movie about her. So I think biopics and biographies, autobiographies are so important to take a really deep dive into the artist, but also into the culture of what was going on in that time.
Hmm.
Um, and all those people, I mean, they made it, they also had this incredible team of people around them that believed in them.
Right. But what I like about Diana Ross is that at one point she started asking to be called Miss Ross because she didn't
Oh,
want to be objectified. So she
no, I
was
know.
putting a barrier. I didn't even, I don't perceive this as being a diva. I perceive this as being someone who doesn't want to be stepped on her toes. And because it's a man's world, she was like,
Yeah,
I am Miss Ross. And you talk to me with respect,
respect. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I totally get that.
which is something Madonna always had. Respect. She has in the industry. She's totally respected. She may be trashed in the media for something she does, but in the end, people respect her.
Absolutely. But at the same time, you know, when we're on tour, it's mostly men. It's male crew, it's male sound people, male set design. I mean, it was like, and to see that pushback with her, you know, I mean, it was incredible. You know, I'm like, she's the boss, people, you know, and
The boss.
but she didn't need anyone to say that because she, you know, once again, she knew what she wanted and she wouldn't stop till she got it. And there was sometimes a process there of that pushback, which I didn't understand why it was there because
Mm.
it's like, just listen to her, what she's saying. You saw it in that movie with the sound man. You know, it's like she's not imagining this, you know, and it was fun that Nikki and I could be like, yeah, we're having the same thing happen to us. You know, it's like we all had to like state our case. And it's amazing that as powerful as she was, sometimes there still was that pushback. And that's just because those guys are that was just the way they worked.
Mm.
And they were all like masters in their own craft and you know, they weren't used to maybe they weren't used to listening to art, you know, having working with an artist that was that strong.
One other voice that strikes to me that stood out was Carole King because
Mhm.
she she was as a songwriter, she was
Yeah.
one of the first few that really mattered to the whole industry, and people started noticing and broke the so-called how do you say, glass ceiling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, she was a songwriter, and it's so interesting that she came from being, you know, writing songs and learning the craft and being a serious songwriter for other people, for other artists, you know. And then when I don't know, that moment of when people heard her voice, and it was like that. It was just the perfect time to hear like a woman's voice singing her own words. That her album Tapestry was,
Mhm.
and I was really little listening to that record. I don't know. There was just such a earthiness in that, such an honesty.
Which I find in Madonna.
Yeah, which was nice to have that daring to just say your own, really say your own words and your own truth. And that is something that's daring,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know?
And another voice that fought against a men's world was
Hmm.
Karen Carpenter,
Oh my
who wanted to be
gosh.
a drummer and was
I
forbidden
know.
from developing her own talent, and then also had a fantastic voice that was highly inspirational, like you said, for This Used to Be My Playground. You guys definitely referenced her. She was
Hmm.
extremely she was amazing, and she obviously lost her battle
Yeah.
um, in terms of affirming her identity. She couldn't, but she remains a great example. And musically, it's beautiful. Now, doing some research recently, I found out that your sister sang with her, was a backup
Yeah.
singer for the Carpenters. Wow.
So before I started doing like sessions and things, my sister came before my brother and I because she's 8 years older. So she started doing like movies and things like that. So that song came, she got called to do that session, and it was such a huge hit. So I remember like I'd hear my sister on the radio all the time. La 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 la. And what a great song, you
Yeah.
know. And then I got to go to see, I went with my sister to the Hollywood Bowl when they were performing live with the Carpenters. And we went early for rehearsal, and I got to sit there and be with her and everything. So that was a big, that was part of my, growing up and inspiration as well. Um, that record,
And
that sound, I mean, we all grew up with that. We grew up with that music in a big way.
right.
The purity of that tone. We've only just begun to live. I mean, she was so like relaxed and open with her voice. And the good thing about getting older is that your voice gets lower. And I love it that I can sing in those lower registers now.
Register. Yeah.
So I want to go back and like sing some of her songs in her key, because it's a different place. Like it's such an openness to sing low like that. Um,
Yeah. I love
than being
Madonna's
up
low
high.
register. I love your lower register. I love Karen
Yeah.
Carpenter's lower register. So when you did This Used to Be My Playground, there was a clear reference to that song. I remember in your interview you said something beautiful, speaking of that song being a soundtrack
Mm.
song, and Madonna calling it assignment work, easy to make because she had a very clear task to accomplish. She knew she was in the movie, she knew the story, she had to put it in 4 minutes and be inspired by something, but she did something very personal. And you said, I've never heard Madonna sing anything contrived, even when she was doing soundtracks for others. That song really has something intimate and personal. It talks about herself as a child, looking back at memories. How, what did you bring into that song?
I mean, there's definitely, I think about her and being an artist like that. Like for me, of it, I think more than acting for her, music was her tool to access the emotion and the vulnerability and those genuine emotions, so because I feel the same way. The music was just opening up to for that uh for that feeling tone, so she'd had it in her voice on that song. There was that purity there with her vocal, and right away it was really open for us to put our vocals in, and it was like almost like a string arrangement. I feel like I grew up, my dad was a string arranger, so I remember him taking the song and then hearing what he would do with the strings. And I feel like we really filled out that track with our voices because there was a lot of
Yeah,
space for it. Um, but
gorgeous.
but I think that's what probably why I said nothing's ever contrived, because even if she's just on an assignment, it would be she could just emotionally connect. and make the words that maybe were about a character or whatever, her personally connect to those words, you know, referencing something from her own life, so that's so important.
Yeah. And around that time, she gave you a song for your first solo album. I remember
Yeah.
buying immediately as it came out, Just a Dream. We all know of
Hmm.
that. It was a now take from Like a Prayer, and she gave it to you. And as you explained to me, there were a lot of developed tracks, so you were able to work on originally the original production. Patrick Leonard changed it. You had Stephen Agg producing the rest of the album, and you get to
Hmm.
sing. You get to use Madonna's voice, and she became your background singer. You switched roles. That was
Yeah.
also, it's a beautiful song, but it's incredible how you reverse roles. I remember again, the BVs come in at the end of the song, and you listen to the song and you go like, oh, then comes Madonna, exchanging roles. That was so
Yeah.
fantastic.
That was sweet. And honestly, I mean, she was so generous with that song. And she didn't ever say, like, don't mix my voice that loud or whatever. She just left it up to me what I wanted. But I was trying to also step out as my own artist, on my own, and have people be able to hear my voice. Yeah, it's my sound like her, but I have my own way of singing and pronouncing words and my own, I had a little more edge with my voice,
Hmm.
so I always liked rock music more. I always would tend to go a little more alternative, especially on that album rather than dance.
Yeah.
So I I remember fighting to have my song "Praying for Love" as the first single and not have that right out of the box come out with that song, because like her voice was on that song. It was her song. She wrote it about her own experience. I could really relate to the song emotionally. I had just broken up with someone and it became like my breakup song. Right when she gave it to me, I literally had broken up with someone I'd been with for 3 years. And so it was like, when I hear that song now, it's like, wow, what a powerful time in my life of
Because it
closing one
became also
chapter.
yours. You
Oh yeah.
related to it. You found your voice, which is what I
Yeah.
wanted to bring the conversation to, because from that album there was a song, probably the first that you wrote, that was not included and that you released many years later, I'll Be
Yeah.
There for You. Now,
Yeah.
not everybody know this story, but it's very interesting. Your first mentor as a songwriter was Bruce Geisch, which we all
Yeah.
know as Patrick Leonard's most trusted guitar player. He did True Blue album, Like a Prayer, but he also co-wrote La Isla Bonita. And
Yeah.
he
He
was the
wrote that
one,
bridge. Yeah.
yeah, and he
Hmm.
was the one who encouraged you to write. And how did it happen? Did he give you some music and you wrote that song?
Yeah. I'd be over at his studio. He loved my voice. And actually, I always wanted to be like rocking with my voice, like, like singing out with an edge and everything. He was the first one that used to say to me, the most beautiful part of your voice, the most special, is when you sing soft. And he just he appreciated that part of my voice, and I was like, yeah, but I want to be a rock singer. At that time, we wrote we ended up writing a lot of songs, but at first I didn't consider myself a writer. I kept
Hmm.
journals. I came up with my own little chord progressions and things, but I had no confidence at all. Um, I felt like I should go in that direction and I could, but I hadn't really done it yet. He gave me this music and he's just like, see what you come up with. He was like, write some melody and lyrics over this. And he gave me the permission to do it. I mean, that was
Wonderful.
incredible. He believed in me. I also didn't have to prove anything to him. He knew I could do it. He was like, you're a great singer. You're very emotional. Of course, you're going to be able to write, and he'd seen me in the studio coming up with parts and everything. So I went away. I remember I think I was staying at Nikki's house for some reason. And maybe she was out of town or something. And I remember sitting like in her kitchen, I think, writing that lyric. And I'd learned that, from Madonna as well. Just be really honest and write about your life. Um, I was writing about my mom and being, unhappy when I was a child and unfulfilled. And I knew growing up, she gave up on her dreams. And she also instilled in me, I think that like, do not ever give up on your dreams. And that song was really like, I remember being on stage with Madonna, especially doing the hanky panky, that stuff, because that was like my mom's time. Don't wanna cry, I just want hanky panky, hanky panky. That's like how my mom sang. That was her style.
Her.
Totally. And I was like, I could feel my mom watching me. I could feel her looking from the audience and smiling. And I was like, I'm fulfilling my purpose.
Because you lost your mother when you were very young?
Yeah, she got breast cancer when I was about 11 or 12 and then passed when I was 16.
So she never saw you perform on stage?
Not really. Not like, no.
Not the big ones that you eventually did.
She believed in me so much. Like, my dad and mom were divorced and they never spoke. But she actually gave my dad money to produce demos on me when I was a teenager. She gave him the money to invest in me. So sweet. So much support. My mom saw that in me out of her 3 children. She felt like I was the one who was going to like do what she couldn't do. So that song is acknowledging that pain of feeling my mother in that emotional state. Like, I felt her growing up. But then transforming that into like, it's all okay. Like, you died with regrets. Your dreams didn't come true, but I'm making it happen. And I'm here for you. I'm here for both of us. And it was easy to write that because that's how I felt. And then I brought it into Bruce. We recorded it. And it's unfortunate that when you go to do a record as a new artist, you have to, they want a big producer. So the producer has to pick your songs. And I really wanted
pick that one.
No, because he was trying to just pick the hits.
Gotcha. But that song essentially was the first one, and you were so honest. You went to some very personal place, and that helped you find your voice as a writer, essentially, because from then on, you became a prolific writer.
Yeah. I think it did. And it's just that power of singing your own words. It's incredible. I mean, I also can sing someone else's words and have a lot of emotion. But there is nothing like when you see a songwriter do their own song. It's so powerful.
And you put out so many records through the years. And I think there are 2 essential themes that you really care for, and that is the environment and spirituality. How did that choice happen?
I think I just grew up that way. I don't know, I was drawn to, since I was really young, like devotional music, like whether it was in church or going to see Swami Muktananda. There was a big Swami that was set up with this giant tent in Santa Monica. And I remember this music that was going on and everyone chanting and singing together. The vibration, I'm sure it was the vibration of it. I loved that. I loved going to church and singing together. I loved getting out of myself and singing about God, about something bigger, about the light, about this positive energy.
And by that, it became the tool for other people, because you creating music for meditation helped other people connecting through music. I think that is a beautiful gift. Now, on the side of this spiritual path that you have, you've just put out a song, "Love Thy Will Be Done."
Yeah.
But you also have this parallel career where you really enjoy dance music. I just saw you on one of your posts on Instagram or Reel. You're amazing at the gym, at the rehearsal space where you're doing dance routines.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, and doing R&B and doing new styles. It's amazing how you keep up with that. You're really, really good. I wish I could move as well.
You can just have to do it. Yeah.
Practice. Yeah. Well,
you just practice.
Not that much, but I have other talents anyway. What I really admire that you have your inspiration also on the dance world. Recently, you put out a new song with Nikki Harris and Tracy Young called Water. You've done other
Hmm.
collaborations with Tracy Young. How did this trio, magic trio, come together?
We were all invited to go to Mexico. I guess it was like last year, um, and for a private party. So um, Tracy was hired to be the DJ, and Nikki and I were going to do our show, but like a
Hmm.
smaller set. And we were brought in and we were just hanging out together. We were like, we knew each other from back in the day. We've known each other and everything. Um, and it was like, we just had so much fun together. We're like, we got to work together, girl. So Nikki and I, one of the songs in our show was I Know You, I Live You, which is
Yeah.
an old Shaka song that we had covered and we do it in our show. So Tracy was freaking out. She was like, I love this. I want to do this. I want to do a remix of this. And of course, Nikki and I were like, of course. So from there, she sent us a bunch of tracks. And one of them was, she was like, yeah, I had this idea I put down, but I never released it of Last Night a DJ Saved My Life. I thought it would be the best one to start with because the song's done. We don't have to write it. It's
Yeah.
already iconic hit dance song. And her track was great. And all we had to do for that was put our vocals down. So we just give her a lot. And I like to give her extra bits and everything. Why not? Like extra harmonies and octaves and everything. So then she loved it, mixed it, came back. I mean, it was like it's the easiest thing ever. You know, all I have to do is book a two hour session, throw my vocals down, done. But that's like my workout song at the gym. You know, like I get on the Stairmaster. I'm like climbing the Stairmaster. That track is so great. And I know a lot of people have enjoyed it. You know, I hope more people get to hear that track because
It deserves it.
it's so well done. It
Yeah.
deserves it. It's a throwback, you know. Um, especially the people that were there at that time. It's a nice reminder of that time. Nostalgic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a powerhouse of three powerful female artists.
And we're
You
talking
know,
about a female DJ. Yeah.
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 And Tracy is the first female recipient of a Grammy in the dance categories with her remix for
Yes.
Madonna. So it's coming full circle.
I know. I'm proud of her for being so prolific and the success we've had together. And I want to just keep it moving and keep it going. So probably every day I'm thinking of, what should we work on next? You know, there was
Beautiful
another
connection.
track. Yeah, she sent us another track early on. I have to find it because on my voice memo, I put down a bunch of vocals when I first heard it, just
Mm.
ideas, and I have to go back and find that.
Yeah, I look forward to another collaboration with you girls. And I think
Yeah.
landing on Tracy Young, starting from Madonna and going through all these other singers we've mentioned, I think it's a beautiful arc, and it's
Isn't
so
it?
and
Yeah.
hopeful for new music coming in the future.
Yes, yes, definitely. And some performances.
Yeah, thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for your time. It's always enlightening and sweet. It's been
Thank
great
you.
talking to you again.
I'll be releasing, a lot more singles coming up. I've gonna be in my meditation area. I've got like Sounds of the Chakras that is another piece I'm gonna put out that's a real
Great.
meditative piece. People can meditate too. But then I've got other more poppy singles. Like there's so much music that I've been working on. I realize I haven't put it out yet. So that'll be happening as well. And I'm always
Awesome. You're
working
so
on music.
prolific. It's beautiful that you're always putting things out and you have new projects and new ideas, new collaborations. It's
Thank
lovely.
God I have the inspiration and the energy. And I'm also, I can say like to the fans and everyone, I'm really into like I need that inspiration, I'm working on my own and I go to those, reading the comments and feeling that energy for inspiration to keep going. And I think a lot of fans don't realize that, it's like just to really let you all know that this gives us so much uh, energy and, reason to keep doing this, really.
Awesome. That's beautiful
Yeah.
to hear. Feedback on our feedback. It's
Yes.
beautiful.
It matters so much. Every word I'm always saying, thank you for sharing. Yeah. So
We're
thank you for
connected.
sharing. Yeah.
My pleasure. And thank you for being with us. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Was it just a dream? This was so nice. I am super grateful to the talented and generous Donna De Lory. I hope you enjoyed this chat too. Please leave comments, let me know your thoughts, and also please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast so you get notified when new episodes come out. Till the next one, like I said, let's keep in touch. Please leave a comment, send me DMs. Let's keep talking of Madonna's music. Yes, on Madonna's songbook, it's all about the music. Leave the chatter behind and let the music take control.